So I read A Separate Piece and The Catcher in the Rye, and I looked at separation from society, particularly adults, in both the books. And both the main characters were teenage boys going to prep schools on the East Coast during or right after World War II. And neither of them seemed to fit in because they're experiencing inward battles. So I made like a timeline / chart of separation for both of them. So in the beginning, he was separated from adults, and in the end, he was separated from his peers. So it has a double purpose. So in A Separate Piece, there are two characters. There is Gene, who's the main character, and Finney, who's his best friend. And some people think there are homosexual undertones, but I didn't really look into that. So in the beginning, they were separated from adults because the teachers were giving the students more freedom because they felt sorry for them because they were going to go to war. So even though it took place in a school, there were very few scenes that had any adults in them. And Finney tried to stay ignorant about the war, and everybody else was totally freaking out about the war, so he was like, okay, I'm going to put on a winter carnival. And they were able to create a separate piece from the war because the boys were able to just have fun, and they totally forgot about the fact that they were going to be drafted into the war. And then that's when the separation from the peers begins, because Gene, for some reason, pushes Finney out of a tree, and he breaks his leg, and his peers don't like Gene anymore because he has done something that they don't appreciate because they really, really liked Finney, and so they don't really like Gene anymore. And then Finney breaks his leg again, and he dies. So Gene feels super guilty. Yeah. And well, no, because bone marrow got into his bloodstream, and that's what caused him to die. And in the end, Gene is separated from his peers, and he does join the adult world when he is drafted into the war. And he does join the world that Finney had tried so hard to ignore, which was the war. And then in The Catcher in the Rye, Holden begins in the beginning. He is totally separated from his peers because he thinks they're immature and they're phony, and he thinks he's way better than them. So he separates himself from them. And he kind of regresses into his childhood because he only talks to his little sister Phoebe. And the only time he really enjoyed in his life was when his little brother Allie was alive. So he has this fantasy of being the catcher in the rye and saving kids from falling off a cliff. And in that world, there are no adults. And he ultimately is trying to protect his own sincerity and not phoniness by pushing away his peers. And he ends up going crazy. So he goes to a psychiatric hospital so he can eventually live a normal life and interact in the normal world with people his own age. And the actions of both characters is what causes the separation. Gene pushed Finney, which is why his peers separated him, and Holden decided on his own that he didn't want to interact with his peers, so that was his action. And it is an inevitable fact that you will grow up and you will have to interact with people your own age, but it just might take longer for Holden and Finney, who died, to accept that fact. So that's separation from the adult world.